I'm Chef Frank, this is Protocooks, and today we're making a Croque Monsieur. Chef Frank, what is a Croque Monsieur? It is kind of a fancy French grilled cheese. It starts out with a piece of bread that you toast, some really nice ham, a bechamel sauce, and some grated Gruyere cheese that you're gonna brown on top. Some people make it into a sandwich. I like to do it open-faced. In France, they have a very specific way of doing things. So remember, this is my take on the Croque Monsieur. Write down in the comments your take, the way you had it, the way you like it. I love hearing from everyone, so write in the comments. And tell me what I'm doing wrong. For my Croque Monsieur, this is what you're gonna need. Milk, butter, garlic, flour, a slice of bread, Gruyere cheese, and ham. Before we start, let's talk about some of the ingredients. We're going to make a bechamel sauce, which is butter, flour, and milk. This is a mother sauce. It's a simple sauce. We're gonna add some of the shredded Gruyere cheese to that, which makes it a Mornay, which is a derivative of a bechamel. I'm gonna put a little garlic in it. I like the garlic. Remember, this is my version of the sandwich. For the bread, I'm using a very sturdy, kind of tight crumb bread, not too thick. I don't want this to be too bready, and I'm only using one slice because remember, this is an open-faced sandwich. For the cheese, I'm using a Gruyere. This is not a French cheese, it is a Swiss cheese, but Gruyere just has the right amount of funk. You can use Swiss cheese, you can use pretty much whatever cheese you want, but if you want a little bit of that kind of French flair, use a Swiss cheese. And last but not least, the ham. I'm using a nice smoky ham with a little bit of fat on it. It's basically deli ham, but it's a little bit nicer. I went for the more expensive stuff. So choose your ham right as well. First thing I want to do is make my bechamel, so I'm going to add my butter. Bechamel is a base sauce or a mother sauce. It's used in mac and cheese. They use it for croquetas in Spain, and it's a good sauce to know, and it's really easy to make. So I'm gonna add my butter, and I'm gonna take my garlic, which I just cut in half. I don't want it chopped. I just want a little bit of garlic flavor, so it's not gonna be this strong garlicky flavor, right? I'm a little too high on my heat, so I'm gonna lower it down. Just want the butter to melt. I don't want it to brown. You can already smell the garlic permeating. It's not gonna be super strong though, just remember that. I'm gonna leave it in there to cook for the whole time too. So melt your butter. And then we're gonna add just enough flour to make this look like wet sand, right? So I like visual cues rather than recipes. So it's not wet sand yet. It's kind of still really liquidy. So we add just enough to kind of let it come together. All right, there we go. See how it looks kind of like wet sand? And now we're just gonna let the flour cook a little. And I'm just going to cook it until I start to smell like baking bread, right? A little bit of baking bread, give it a smell. Right, it's just about a minute, it doesn't take long. Okay, and then I'm gonna get rid of my spatula. I'm gonna leave it close at hand, and I'm gonna add my milk. I'm using a low-fat milk. You don't have to use a low-fat milk, it's just the milk that I have in my house. Don't go clutching your pearls on me. The sandwich is gonna have enough fat in it. It's gonna be delicious. And then I like to whisk this to get most of the lumps out. And I do kind of a whisk and a spatula combo. I know that it seems kind of like a pain, but my spatula gets in the corners and the whisk breaks up the lumps. And I want this to be kind of medium thick, not runny, not really stiff, but I want it to be a fairly thick, pourable consistency. So I have a little more milk. I just want it to be a little thinner. It's a little too thick there. Just gonna add a little more milk to thin it out. Make sure you get it everywhere. So I have about another half a cup of milk, which is gonna be right. So it's creamy, it's a little thick. If I wanted to pour this while it was hot, it would probably pour. I'm gonna get rid of that whisk, and I'm just gonna let it cook maybe 5 minutes while I'm consistently stirring, but it's nice and smooth. It's a little thicker than you would use for mac and cheese. Whenever you're cooking, you might have to adjust things. Recipes are great guidelines, but sometimes recipes don't work. So don't be afraid to adjust if it doesn't look right. Use your brains, right? But that to me is perfect right there. Look at that, creamy, thick. I can still pour. Let this go for like another 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll add the cheese. This is cooked for about 5 minutes. I'm gonna season up with salt and black pepper. I like black pepper in this. A lot of people with white sauces don't like black pepper. I like the flavor better than white pepper. So give it a stir. I shut my heat off, and now I'm gonna add my cheese. I'm using the Gruyere that I grated. I'm using a fair amount, right? So I like the double cheese on this. You don't necessarily have to put the cheese into the sauce. You can just put it on top. But I like the fact that that cheese kind of comes through in a couple of different ways. Not just on top of the sandwich, but in the bechamel as well. Stir it in real good and chill it down. The bechamel's cooled down, and I'm gonna assemble this sandwich in this pan. I like to do one pan because it's super easy. So I take some butter. I'm just gonna melt the butter in the pan, swirl it around. And instead of toasting my bread in a toaster or in the broiler, I'm gonna toast it in some butter, right? Why not butter, right? Butter makes it better. So toast your bread in a little bit of butter. And then what I'm gonna do is, as that toasts, I'm gonna heat my ham in the same pan. I think I'm gonna go with 2 slices. I had 3 slices on the plate, but I think 2 slices is enough. We don't want to overload this sandwich. Believe it or not, this sandwich in France is more of a snack than a lunch. So we don't want to get too much sandwich in there. We want it just to be a nice afternoon snack. So we'll let our bread toast. We'll let our ham heat up. And we'll just sit there and watch it. Right, I'm going to turn my ham over. Get it nice and hot. Turn my bread over. It's getting nice and crunchy. I'm going to take the ham and I'm going to put it on my bread. Just fold it. This is why we only need 2 slices, because we're kind of folding it. And I'm going to let it continue to brown on the bottom here. So while that is browning on the bottom, we're going to get some bechamel. Just like 2 nice scoops of our nice cheesy bechamel. I'm just going to flatten it out and smooth it over my ham. And just let that get warm again, because we did chill that down. I'm going to wait for it to get nice and brown on the bottom, which we're getting. I'm going to lower my heat. Actually, I'm going to shut my heat off. I'm going to take some nice Gruyere, pile it on top, and I'm going to throw it under the broiler. And the French call this gratiné, or to brown on top. I'm going to take this over to the broiler, and I'm going to brown the top. We're out of the broiler. I got a little charring on my bread, but I'm not too worried about it, right? Let's plate this up and give it a taste. Now's my favorite time to taste. My wife said something really funny. It looks good, but it doesn't look pretty, and she is absolutely right. I think one thing that would make it look prettier is if we made it into a croque madame and put a fried egg on top. So that's the other option with this sandwich. You make the monsieur, you make a fried egg or a sunny side up egg, you put it on top. Delicious. So let's get in. You ready? The bread is crunchy. The ham is smoky. The cheese has this nice funk to it, and the creaminess of the bechamel just sets it all off. Great snack, great sandwich. It takes a little bit of doing to make the bechamel. It's worth every second. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We have merch in the description down below. We also have a P.O. box. I want to thank my Patreon patrons for supporting us. Thank you so much. And that is my take on the classic Croque Monsieur. I'm Chef Frank, this is Protocooks. Bonjour.